All right, good afternoon, English 102 students. This is your professor, Michael Bloomingberg. I am joined today by Kira and Cody for the week 12 live class session. I'm going to keep my eyes and ears open in case others decide to come on as the session is unfolding. But it is my thought that most of you will be able to check out the recording of this. I scheduled this a little later in the day just because schedule wise for me, the opportunity presented itself. So if this was too late in the day for you to attend, I do understand. And I will say too, this might end up being the final live session, live class session of the semester, simply because we're now in the month of April. We're about a month away, give or take, from the end of the semester. So I just really wanted to put this together to touch base with you about a few things, namely SA2 and the work that you're doing this week with the graphic organizer. But I do want to mention the fact that earlier last week, almost a week ago, just a few days ago, I sent out an email about an extra credit opportunity involving the completion of the English 102 course evaluation survey. The link is over here in the corner, just above the email Mr. Bloomingberg link. You could have also, should have also received the link via email. So if you've already completed it, you don't obviously have to complete it twice. But if you haven't had a chance to do it, you can earn a couple of bonus points in the class for completing the survey. And I also mentioned the fact that I have a pretty unique opportunity in the fall to teach a class I haven't had the opportunity to teach before, and that's English 207, which is a creative writing class that's concerned with writing fiction and poetry. So if that's something that you are interested in, the class does count as a general elective. So that's the biggest thing to be aware of. You can always speak with your academic advisor. The class will be entirely online in the fall of 2021. So with all of that out of the way, what I want to do is, I also want to mention that I apologize for the super long delay for SA1. You should notice that if you haven't received your scores yet, they are coming in. Many of you have already received them. So if you haven't yet, just be on the lookout very, very soon because I'm updating scores. I was actually rolling over scores. I put my comments and rubric on the same sheet, so it's a little bit of a slow process, but you'll be seeing those rolling in if you haven't already. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and click in course content and the week 12 folder. So you have been working on a project. If you were in my English 101 class before, it looks pretty similar to the final essay of 101, but I kind of threw that curveball at you last week. And before I take a look at week 12, I think it's important to talk about that for just a moment. And I have given you some feedback in the Grade Center regarding your stance and looking at the opposite point of view. Now, do I have a way of knowing that this is truly your opposite viewpoint? Well, I can compare it to the work that you did in the previous discussion board. And let me tell you what I'm talking about. If I go down to your topic, I can compare it to what you have here. But this is more of a trust thing than anything, because what I'm looking to have you do with SA2 is to build an argument based upon database scholarly sources, but to structure it in using a point of view that you're not altogether comfortable with. And the reason I'm having you do that is because not only is that a hallmark of a good critical thinker, but it's also challenging you to think about the importance of counter argument. The fact that any given societal topic does have two points of view. So even if this isn't the one that you're most comfortable with, again, this is going back from last week and again a couple of weeks ago. But even if it's not the side of the coin you're most comfortable with, you can structure an argument to prove the point. And I hope this isn't confusing. I was hoping to demonstrate counter argument. Because that's going to be a part of what you're going to be asked to do. But I suppose I'm being a little contradictory in making this point, so I don't want this to be overly confusing. You do need to acknowledge the counter argument. That's where the trust factor comes in, because you have to develop that with your reader. But within the actual essay itself, you're not just structuring based on the counter argument. And I don't think I'm articulating that very well. Kara, Cody, does this make sense to you? The actual essay is not just the counter argument. It's obviously your supported point of view, but you have to understand the counter argument in order to be able to strengthen your own point of view. That's a good question, Cody. So Cody's question is, should the counter argument be all through the essay or just a paragraph noted in the introduction? It should ideally be after the introduction as a single paragraph, Cody. So it doesn't have to be sprinkled throughout, but it does need a solid acknowledgement. And you can use a source for the counter argument. You don't necessarily have to, but you might find it, you might find it easier to strengthen that way. Okay. And Kara, I saw your comment as well. I appreciate that. I feel like I'm being a little contradictory. I did get some emails about it, which also made me think maybe I should have worded this differently. So I just wanted to take a moment to address that and make that hopefully a little more clear. In the week 12 folder with the course worksheet, I want to pull that up very quickly. What you're being asked to do, of course, is to continue your work in opposing viewpoints in terms of gathering and organizing your scholarly source material. Now, there is a step that you're going to complete this week called the graphic organizer. Many of you have already begun the process of turning that in, or perhaps have even been working, just even working through it. Maybe you're not quite ready to submit it yet. So I appreciate that, but I did want to pull it up during this session and just make sure that it makes sense. And more than anything, I like these live sessions just so you can check in live with me. If you have questions or comments, that's kind of the biggest thing. But I am going to go over the assignment with you just to make sure it makes sense. It is due this upcoming Sunday. That's April 11th. So you still have a few days to work through it. And again, this is another reason why I try to schedule these sessions out earlier in the week as possible, that way to give you the opportunity to ask those questions. So I'm going to move this over. Actually, I'm going to stop share for just a moment. And Carrie and Cody, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I am going to, and I hope you like my background too. I love this virtual background because it's the beach, which I haven't traveled any at all since 2019. And I don't think I've been to the beach since May of 2019. I think I went Memorial Day weekend is when my wife and I went to, almost said Virginia Beach, Charleston, South Carolina. We're taking a trip at the conclusion of the semester. In fact, a couple of weeks after the semester is over, we'll be taking a trip to Myrtle Beach. And the reason we're able to do that is because we're completely vaccinated from COVID. And we're still going to take precautions, obviously, when we travel. But I hope that you are staying safe from the pandemic. I know it's been it's been over a year now. So I hope you're staying well from that. And April of 19 for you, Kara. I feel you, and you're planning one for June. Good deal. Yeah, I'm so looking forward to getting back to some normalcy, even though I hate that cliche, right? Getting back to normal, but I really look forward to it. I'm going to throw up the graphic organizer on the screen so that we could take a look at it, and hopefully it'll make some sense as we go through. Now, I'm asking you to go ahead and put your thesis statement here in this top block. And I recognize that it's possible that the more research you do, you could tweak your thesis. So I guess the big thing to note in terms of thesis is it doesn't have to be set in stone at this point, since the essay is not due this week. But you do want to certainly be getting that in order as you're going through the source information. Now you will see that you have two boxes, and I want to just kind of put an indicator with where I am in the organizer so everyone's with me there. And so what you're going to want to do is fill this out. Like, for example, the first block says list two main points that support the thesis for your argument essay. And so you'll list 1 point, 2 point, locate two scholarly sources, list the author's last name and the year, boop, boop, right there, same thing. Now, MLA is concerned with page or paragraph number more than year, so you might wonder why I asked about that, because by and large, with these kinds of topics, you're finding an opposing viewpoints. And this isn't a steadfast rule, but I would recommend that you try to keep your source material to within the last 5 years. And I certainly wouldn't go any further back than 10 years, because if you do, chances are the information is going to start to get a little bit outdated. So summarize the main idea of each source. And again, put that 1, 2, 1 up top, down below. Same thing with the quote. Include, here we go, the page and paragraph number, which is much more indicative of the kind of work you're asked to do using MLA. Paraphrase the quote. We haven't talked a whole lot about that. So a paraphrase is where you take that information from the source and you reword it in your own language. But of course, the idea is still going to come from the source, so it does need to be documented. A paraphrase is generally used for information that's a bit more difficult to decipher if you were to just simply use the original language from the source. And then write a sentence about how the source information relates to your ideas. Therein is the critical thinking and the incorporation of your argument into, really, you're using the source just to better your argument. Please don't forget about part 2. It's very easy to forget that. I want to highlight that there. When you're doing all this work in the box, it becomes kind of easy to forget that there is a part 2. But I'm just asking you to write one of the body paragraphs for the essay. It can be your counter argument too, by the way, if that's what you prefer to do. It might be better if it's not the counter argument, but I'm not going to hold that against you if because I know from last week, you probably have a pretty good handle on getting that lined out. Use at least one quote or paraphrase from the source in this paragraph, which will include an in-text citation. Include your own, basically it's like if you took the body paragraph from your paper, and I know you're saying to yourself, well, this is asking a lot because I don't actually have the paper put together yet, or at least probably most of you don't. And if that is true, that's perfectly fine. But in theory, that's kind of what this is asking you to do, so that you're including your own argument. That's what this comment on the source material is all about. And then a concluding sentence. Whoop. I saw the comment box, the chat box light up, but I'm having trouble opening it. So I'm going to stop share for just a second. Okay. So Cody said, I used a statistic table for one of mine. How do I state the page or paragraph number with something like that? I just wrote statistic 3 because I wasn't sure. Yeah, so if it is an actual box, then a table rather, and there's no information around it, is it just a table onto itself, Cody, with no text with before or after, just so I'm clear? Yeah, okay. So in that case, you could just put statistic, sorry, my phone was ringing. You could just put statistic 1 there in that case, and I think that would be just fine. Does that make sense? Okay. Great question. That's a good question to bring to these live sessions, by the way. And I'm sorry I had to stop share. It wasn't allowing me to open up, to keep that chat box open. Now I've got it back open. Okay, other questions about this assignment? And again, you're gonna just, it's a Word document, so you can just type right there in the box and down below. Okay, not seeing any questions. Let me stop share one more time, and I'm gonna go back into the week 12 folder. And what I'm gonna do is, let me just kind of do it this way. The submission forum is here. It's very typical as always. Again, the assignment is due the 11th of April, this upcoming Sunday. I think the only thing I need to do is share the live class code. But before I do that, Kara and Cody, if you have any other questions, let me know. And I'll just remind you as well that you can always email me as you're working if you're running into any questions. I should have mentioned this before too. You will, of course, have rewrite opportunity for essay 1 or 2 if you so choose to do that. This chat box is being really stubborn and not wanting to open. So let me say that. Okay, you're good, Kara? Good. All right, let me go ahead and share the live class code. Now remember, you'll want to include this code in the submission forum of week 12. It's the very bottom link to submit that. You'll just take it in your own Word document. The code is scholarly sources for the week 12 live class code. Kara, Cody, you both, of course, have access to that now. So at any point in time, you want to put that in your Word document and submit it, you are more than able to do that. For the rest of you, as soon as you watch and get to this point in the video, you're able, obviously, to do the same. All right, so scholarly sources. I feel like I had to ingrain that. I'm kind of beating the dead horse, so to speak, but the importance of scholarly sources for this essay assignment. Okay, cool. Kara, Cody, thank you both very much for taking time to join the session. I hope you found this helpful. If either of you have any questions as you're working, just feel free to reach out. Hey, you're welcome, Cody. And for the rest of you, it's really been cool to get to work with you. I know the semester's not over. We will have one more essay after essay 2. But it'll be a little bit of a quicker turnaround time, but we'll talk about it. And I have every bit of confidence that you'll have the opportunity to be successful. So thank you all very much. I hope you found it helpful. If you need anything, email me, but we'll keep this short and sweet. So thanks again. And Kara, Cody, have a good rest of your evening. Take care. Thanks. Have a good day.